going to be talking about several different things in propagation today. And I just want you to know, people who propagate plants make mistakes. So it's kind of one of those things that you try it and yours didn't work, and you try it a different way and it didn't work, and you ask somebody else. So don't be discouraged. I told the ladies that I got here today, about half of my demonstrations didn't actually work. So just remember, just because you've even been doing it a long time doesn't always mean that you're going to have everything that's going to do just right. This morning we're going to start on seeds, and if you don't mind, I'm going to have to kind of turn this way. We don't have the greatest setup. We have the best setup that we could kind of get for us. And I'm going to be talking about sexual propagation. Doesn't have anything to do with pornography, fertility. Well, it does have to do with fertility.
And I'm not old enough, so she's the one.
Yeah, right. So the ways that you propagate plants are asexual propagation or sexual propagation. And the sexual propagation one has to do with seeds. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Seeds are, the flowering plants that come from seeds are called angiosperms. But there's also asexual propagation, which would be air layering, stem cutting, division, grafting, tissue culture, and you can see those on the screen. There are some pros and cons to planting with seeds. First of all, they're fairly inexpensive. If you've been to the nursery to get plants, you know that you go, wow, those cost a lot. But you can get the seeds and you can store them, transport them. You don't have to have a whole lot of room. The commercial seeds will have higher standards. And I know that sometimes people are worried about, was this GMO, do my seeds, okay, seeds you get at the store and on the seed catalog, those are not GMO seeds. They have not been modified. that modification of seeds is generally in commercial applications where you would have the mango size wheat field or cornfield or whatever. So don't worry about getting something that's going to make you grow another eyeball on your head, because it's not. These are just seeds. Hybrid seeds will produce progeny better than the parents. Sometimes they don't. When I'm talking hybrid, I'm talking crossing two plants. I'm not talking about genetically modified. I'm talking about a natural way. As all of you know, if you've had plants, you have some that do a little better than others. And if you have the knowledge and know how to cross-pollinate those, you may get a better plant. I have not ever gotten into that yet. Don't know if I ever will. Okay, and of course large-scale agriculture is, it's got to use seeds. That's just the way it is. The only thing about seeds, some seeds, especially seeds of woody plants, can be a little slow. If you have a perennial, okay, let's just go here. An annual is a plant that just generally grows for 1 year. A perennial is a plant that you put in the ground, usually a shrub, but sometimes it can be flowers also, and they will come back year after year. So some of especially perennial plants, it may take them a couple of years to really get to the size that you want them to be. And that may be where you choose something else, an annual. They can lack uniformity, especially if you get the seeds in the garden. I'm a seed collector a little bit. And sometimes you get one that comes out to be pink and the other one was lavender. So that's just the way life is. It does take a little longer time for them to mature. And some of them don't really produce a viable seed. Some plants really don't produce very many seeds at all. And like I told you, the plants may have an extended juvenile period, but right now we're going to just be talking about seeds and the product of sexual propagation. Okay, would you look at your seed packet? Here's a little seed packet on your table. Okay, now some of these things I want you to look at, and I will tell you, you're talking to a person that's always getting a magnifying glass out. So I just want you to look at your seed packet. Take a minute and look. Okay, if it is a heirloom or a cultivar, you may not even see that on there. How much sun does it need? How many days until maturity? Is it determinate or indeterminate? Does anybody have tomato seeds? Okay. See if you can find if it's determinate or if it's indeterminate. And I'll explain what that is. Is it a vine or a bush? Just look at your seed packet and see. Can it be planted? And that's kind of an interesting thing. And how deep do you plant it? What are your soil temperatures? The days to germination and how you should space them. Just take a minute and read your packet. And I'm going to ask you something. You just hold up your hand if this hits you. Okay? Everybody get a chance to read? Does anybody in here have anything that says heirloom or cultivar? Okay. What was yours?
Sweet peas.
Sweet. Is it heirloom?
It's heirloom.
You have heirloom? Okay. You know, those are older seeds. Well, they have come from older seeds, and they're going to be truer to that old seed, but they haven't been hybridized. Okay? How much sun does yours need? Most of them say full sun. Full sun, full sun, full sun. Okay. How many days until maturity?
80
What?
80 to 90.
80 to 90. What kind is yours, Cliff? Pepper. Okay. And let me tell you a little secret. When it says that days to maturity, that is from the time you put it in the ground outside. If you start that seed inside, it's going to take 80 days outside before it matures. Okay? Okay, here's something that a lot of times, I always was very confused about this. Do you know what a determinate and indeterminate is? It's going to be on your tomatoes. Okay. If you are a person that likes to grow tomatoes and you like to make salsa or can them, say you want to can your tomato. And so you want all those tomatoes to pretty much get ripe at the same time. So you can can them and, you know, you'll have your canning done. I mean, they're not all come in at 1 week. But a determinate is, it's a plant, it's a tomato plant, that those plants are going to come out just right about the same time, all those fruits. So if you were going out, you're getting all your friends to come help you can tomatoes, and you're going to pick those tomatoes, that's the kind you want. Because you don't want to have 2 or 3 tomatoes coming along and then 2 or 3 next week and 2 or 3 the next week. So indeterminate means they will grow pretty much all summer long. The vine or bush, that's usually beans, squash, cucumbers. Anybody have any bush? Yeah? Okay. Or vines? Anybody have any squash or cucumbers? These are just loose things. Okay. Oh, here is a good something. Can it be transplanted? And this is something that you're going to find out if you decide to start your plants inside your house. A lot of times we will take squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, what else, Joe? Several plants. And we'll start them as little seeds in the house. okay? And then when they get ready, we put them in the ground. But, okay, does anybody have beets or, okay. Okay, do anybody have a beet thing? Okay, what does it say about, can you tell when to put them in the ground? There are certain crops that don't like to be transplanted. Beets is one of them I can think of. And it will say, plant it outside. So that's a good thing to learn about your seed packing. If you're going to want to start some in your greenhouse or your porch, don't get beets. Put those in the ground later. Okay. It also will tell you your planting depth and your soil temperature and your days to germination. We talked about that. And how to space them. This is just the answers to that later. Okay, all seeds are going to need water. They're all going to need oxygen. And they're all going to need the proper temperature in the time to germinate. Some seeds do not need sun to germinate. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you some tomatoes in a minute. You're going to look at my pitiful tomatoes, but they don't need sun to germinate. But there actually are a few seeds that do need sun to germinate. So that's one of the things that they actually need darkness. So if we have water and oxygen and it's exposed, your seeds should start maybe. Okay, here in the seed viability testing, I'm going to show you my little pitiful examples. Okay, you get seeds. I may have gotten them from last year. I got them off of the plant. And, okay. Here they are. And I didn't know whether they would start or not. Along there, no, not on there. Okay, maybe I have to minimize that. You realize this is just like the blind making the blind, right? Well, Joe? Turn it on.
Oh, she's trying to turn off the camera.
Oh, there it is. No, you still don't have it. Undo it. No. No.
The seeds is gone. She's look at them every day. I know. It makes me just really baby, so I don't know what top it
Okay. I'll show you all my picture things at one time. Okay. I told you, we're talking. Okay. What I'm going to show you is I took the seed and I put them in a bag, a plastic bag, and there's a lot of other ways to do this. And I wet my seed. I'm supposed to be showing you under here. Do you see this seed? Okay. That is my viability test. Can you see that? Okay. Do you see the roots that came out? Okay. It's a good thing, like if you take your seeds like that, and especially if you've gotten them just from the garden, and go ahead and look and see what they're going to do here. See there? I just put them in there, I put them in a baggie. I didn't put them in the sun. I just put them on the sheet. You know how to put a wet paper towel? I put them on a wet paper towel. Yeah. And I'll show, I'm sorry, I was hoping I could flip-flop back from my PowerPoint. And we'll get to that, and I'll show you the whole process in a second. I'm also going to show you this. since I got this up. You think I can? Let's go back to the top. Okay. Okay. Here's what I did, and I didn't do it exactly like that. That was a little bit more specific for me. But I just soaked my paper towel in water, and I unfolded it. I put some seeds over the first half of it. I just put one in a baggie. And then I rolled it up. I didn't put a rubber band on it. I put it in a baggie like this and rolled it up. And there's what I came out with. And I will tell you that some of my seeds did not come out. And I think the reason that they didn't is because I had the seeds laying on a heat mat out in my green room, and that's where I call my porch. And I think that that's why they didn't. But it doesn't take very much. You just do it for a few days. Lay them on your kitchen cabinet. Lay your baggie on your kitchen cabinet. Doesn't need any sun. And just see what you get. Sometimes they'll rot. Sometimes they do better. But if they don't do anything, you may have some bad seeds. And that's called a seed viability test. Okay, we're going back to this. That's still showing. See what they did? They put theirs on like a plate. You see it? And then they covered them up. And there's the little tiny, wrong thing. I thought that I had a little. Okay, is this? I'm going to try it again. Okay, do you see the little seedling things coming out? Do you see the radical? Okay, so you'll know, you don't have to leave them for 3 weeks in the thing. That's just the way I did, because, I'm always scared they won't come up, and so maybe I better start some more. So, that's the way that works. Okay. We're going to talk just a little bit about angiosperms, about monocots and dicots. Have you ever heard of monocots and dicots? Okay, there you go. This is just the traditional differences between monocots and dicots. Monocot only has one seed leaf. They are usually of short duration, and they are small herbaceous plants. Okay. Yeah, okay. Here's the big deal. A monocot is often a grain or a grass. Your grass will be a monocot. Think of how your grass looks. One stem going up like that. Okay, that is a monocot. Also, they said that rice, sweet corn, and I'm going to show you in a second. I'm kind of scared now. Daffodils, irises. A dicot will come up and it will have 2 little tiny leaves when it comes up. They'll be like this, which is part of the, it's part of the cotyledon. And the reason dicots have lots of flowers, but one thing is a dicot usually can grow bigger. Your tree will be a dicot. Lots and lots of your flowers are dicots. They come in a lot of shapes. You see those trees. But I wanted to show you an easy way to look. Look at the monocot leaf. See how the veins in it are going up and down? And look at the dicot's leaf. They are going out like this. Okay. And that's just for what it's worth, in case you want to know. All right, I'm going to go. You think I dare do this? This was a bean and corn cup. I'm kind of scared, y'all, to see see if I can do this again. Okay. Yay. This, okay, see this?
We did it work.
Danielle, help.
You want to go back to the...
Yeah. I probably may just have to change this so I don't go back and forth again. What do you think, Eva? Okay.
You watch what you're doing.
Okay, all right. This, I planted beans in here. You see my beans, didn't you? See that? I wanted to see the growth. All right, here's my corn. Anybody ready to just have a big corn crop? We'll transplant these later. Look at that. But there's my corn, the actual corn seed that I put in there. See how I put down the little radicals? And see how the monocot leaf comes up here. I can't show you, but can you see anything about it? See how it's done? Okay, so that's our monocots. Now I'm going to try to go back to the other thing and see how it goes. Okay. Okay, when we start seeds, here's something I want you to know. When you start seeds, you either need to have new pots or you need to wash your pots. You need your sterilized seed pots and your flats for soaking. If you will take 5 parts bleach and 1 part water for a minimum of 5 minutes, you don't have, we use old pots all the time. Don't think you have to go out and buy them. But when you do, wash them real good and dip them in a bleach water solution or leave them in there for a little while. You'll have a lot better luck with your plants when you plant your seeds. You're going to use a good potting soil. I particularly like Miracle Grow. You can add some perlite to it. That's just an additive. It looks like little tiny styrofoam beads kind of, doesn't it? Yeah. And you're going to dampen the soil so you can squeeze it into the bowl, but not too much. You're going to use clean containers, good soil, and label it with a plant name. Get your label out. And I have a label. I will tell you a little secret. I told you we reuse a lot of stuff here at Master Garden. Because you have to. And this particular label, we had some aluminum blinds, you know, the little mini blinds that were white, and people throw them away, and they make wonderful labels. We just go with the Susan. And so what I'm going to put on this one is tobacco. Because I'm going to plant some tobacco for you. If I find my tobacco. Okay. That's just soil. Oh, by the way, I was going to show you. This is the potting soil that I'm using for this. This is seed starting soil. Okay? And I don't know what I've done with my little, I do know. Sometimes it just takes a little bit. Ta-da. Okay. All right. All right. Minimize this.
Okay.
Just need you standing there. Okay. Here's what I'm doing. I told you, we reuse a lot of stuff. You know what this thing is? It's what the spinach comes in at your grocery store if you get the more bigger kind of spinach. And in the bottom, I poked holes. I used a drill, but you could use anything, that you could poke a hole in. And I have moistened my soil. Just a little, okay. It's not holding together, but I can feel the moistness of it, like this. By the way, you have to be kind of grubbed when you like to do plants. Anyway, I never know if I'm going the right direction. Okay. Now, the reason I'm showing you tobacco seeds is because I have found that they love, I'll show you in a minute, they love to sprout. They are the easiest things in the world, I think next to tomatoes. And this is a little tobacco, I got it off of a friend's, and it's a little tobacco, and I want to show you this. Can you see the seeds in my hand? Do you see it? Look at the size of them. See that? Okay. Now I'm just going to take those and just sprinkle them in my soil.
How many do you think that was?
I imagine that's probably 100. The tobaccos, if you're not careful, if you're doing it like your greenhouse and stuff, you will have tobacco seeds, tobacco everywhere. You look at something, you go, oh, that's a tobacco plant growing. Yeah. Okay. And then
the flower tobacco.
the flower tobacco. And I'm just going to pat it down a little like that. Oh, thank you. Look at you. Look at you. That Terry. Isn't she a sweetie? And I'm going to do that to it. And then I am going to put the lid on it. Now you're only going to leave this lid on until it germinates. This is just strictly till germination. I just lay it on there loosely. And I also want to show you something. It's a little cheap thing, but it's not that expensive to buy. Have you seen heat mats? This is a heat mat. And when I start my seeds, I just take a little heat mat. They're not, maybe 18, everything's gone up, but say $15. You can order them on Amazon or whatever. And I take that heat mat and just set it on there like this. Remember, I have holes in the bottom. So that's the reason I have the dish over here. And by the way, I also use aluminum pans like you get at the grocery store to put your cake pans, the cheapo ones. You can use them too. And then you're going to put it on there like that and turn it on. And then when your seeds start to sprout, take the lid off. And then just make sure that you keep the top of the soil moist. And here is the result. Okay? Do you think I put enough seeds in there? But they're fun to grow. These are, I'll tell you what, let's see if I can get some out there. I wouldn't afford it. Well, I have planted them this deep. I'm going to see how so.
Fran, how many days is that?
Probably about 2 weeks. Yeah, that's about 2 weeks. When you get your transplants out, hold them by the leaves. Do not touch the stems. The stems are real easy to get crimped or mashed. And if you damage the stem, it'll die. If you damage the leaf, it'll come back with another leaf. You see what I've got here? Just a little something. And I'm going to show you what I would do with this. Is I just take a peat pot. You see the peat pot? Here. And just, I don't know where. I use this for a little dibble. A dibble just means it digs a hole. This is my dibble, okay? And so I just take a little thing, dig me a little bit of hole, got two there if I'm holding, and put it in there. And then I'll probably put that back on the heat mat too. I'll fill my thing. This is the plant. It will go from that. This one, of course, is still young. It'll get to be this tall. It has the most beautiful blues on the top. I love doing it.
I think they're white or pink. Do you remember what color they
I
were?
think these are pink. Joe may know. It's kind of one of those things I got from somebody, and I got from somebody, and somebody got from somebody else.
I think these are from Joe.
Yeah, I would love to have burgers.
Heat mat.
A heat mat.
I hate what
Heat mat.
Heat mat, right?
mat.
It's on a mat.
Mat.
M-A-T.
It's for painting.
And yes, you can get it wet. You know, I try not to. I try to put things on it so it won't get wet, but it makes it wet all the time. You just plug them in.
No, that's flour.
You don't want to, once you've got your plant, once you think it's formed some good roots, take it off the heat mat. Don't leave it on there. Because sometimes you get too much root and not enough time. And these, see when I use these little peat pots here like this? Okay, here's a joy of, I'm going to use one down here. Here's the joy of using the peat pots. I can take that apart and I'm going to put it this is later. I've grown some roots. I'm going to put it in this 4-inch pot, and I will just tear off one side, set it in there, and put, depending on how much root it has, and then I'll put soil down in the bottom. I'll put soil in the bottom, then I put it in, and then I carry it. And it works real well for me that way. Some people will go directly from that to the 4-inch pot. If you want to skip that part, Rachel.
Do you have to actually start the seeds every season for a tobacco plant, or will it perhaps reseed itself?
I don't know.
It's not a perennial.
Okay, she says it's an annual.
But you'll have plenty of seeds from the pods on the plant.
So
Yeah.
those pods don't drop and just
I've
naturally.
never had one where it's
No, and I'll tell you what, I don't know how many I have here, but if anybody wants some, I have some and I'll give you some. Okay? All right, back to whatever we're doing. Let's see if I can go back. I just, okay, we've done clean
I got
containers.
a question back here. Okay, those pink pots, can you just start your seed in the pink
Some
pot?
people do just start their seed in the peat pot. Yes. Yes, some people do. When you do, be sure that you keep your peat pot good and wet because they will dry out. And so what I usually do, if I have it in the peat pot, is I'll put it in a container like this, and then I keep some water pretty good in the bottom because you don't want your peat pot to get dried out. If your peat pot's dried out, it's pulling the soil out of the roots. So you want to keep them moist. Okay. See, we kind of,
When you get through with the peat pot, you're up, you're potting up to the 4-inch. Don't throw away the peat pot. Just share the pieces with the compost.
right, a lot of people just put it in the compost. Some people will throw it in the bottom of their pot. You know, it's,
Mic back to her.
You
It's
get peat pot,
compost.
just about any big box store, you go to Walmart, any garden store. Probably $1 out.
You need your mic?
oh, okay. We're going to move on. This is just planting containers you can get. you can do what you want. I mean, they all work. Just be sure that when you get the ones for when you get what you're going to do for your seed starting, if you have a lid on it. But take that lid off after it germinates so that you don't overwater that. This one, see, they just put plastic over theirs. That's not uncommon for us to do. All right. This is not mine, but this is what I have that looks like the second one over there. And I have enjoyed it so much. I have a covered, enclosed porch, and which wasn't good for anything because it has no air conditioning and no heating. And so I got a rack like that, and I put lights on it, and I have the biggest time. I go out there and I'll just go, wow, look today what I have. So it's fun to do. These are different kind of heat mats. I think that'd be more of a commercial thing. Be sure to keep your top of your soil moist with plastic or I never use newspaper. Room temperature water, and do fertilize after you bump your plants up. And most of the time they'll want to use like a fertilizer like Miracle Grow or something. Only do half strength at first. You don't want to burn your plant. This is just showing people watering seeds. Here we are.
What kind of fertilizer did you say?
Yeah.
Price bound?
Uh-huh.
What kind of fertilizer did you say?
I just use, Miracle Grow. I actually have some that somebody gave me that is organic. The organics are not as strong though. And I will tell you the organics are going to probably smell like fish oil. So, just bear that in mind, and I always dilute it. Uh-huh.
Do you spray it onto the spray bottle?
Mine, I just put mine in the water jug that I'm watering with. It's several gallons. What I do is I'll have a bunch of, I generally water my plants. Fertilize them about at the same time. I have a little label thing I stick up in there, and I do it every 2 weeks after they're bigger, to help them grow. And I'll put my date on the label, and I'll put fertilized 4/29, and then so that I know, because otherwise I will not remember when I fertilized. And then I'll wait 2 weeks and fertilize them again. And I have water jugs. I told you, you have to be a little bit of a pack rat. I have water jugs, they're just milk jugs, and I put my half teaspoon or whatever of the fertilizer in there and fill the water jug up and just keep on fertilizing those plants until we get to it through. This is one thing I want to talk to you real quick about damping off. It happens when you have seeds, and I've had them come up and damp off. And it's just, first of all, be sure you sanitize your pots, because that'll help one thing. Make it maybe a little drier, but something that has helped me is I have a little tiny fan. And even cold weather, I just blow that little fan where it blows across the top of those little seedlings, and it keeps them from damping off. And I think it's worth it. You can use an antifungal, but personally, the little fan has worked well for me. This is what I was telling you about transplanting seedlings. Only hold them from the top. As soon as they're large enough, I wanted to show I'm going to wait till I get to the end. Be sure that you hold them from the top. You can dig them down. Sometimes I use a plastic fork or an old fork or an old spoon to dig down. Well, you can't see this, but to dig down in there. Get your hands dirty. One like this, you could look at that. See, you could take those out and you separate them. And, you don't want to be rough with them. You can use your little pencil and divide them a little bit. Oh, this is because somebody held it. Do you see the main stem, how it's bruised? It's because they held it by the stem. Don't hold it by the stem. And, oh, one more thing. Once your plants get a little bit bigger, you think, oh, it's trying to plant them outside. You've got to acclimate your plants. Don't just go out there. And it works the same, or if you get plants from our plant sale or plants that have come from a nursery, don't go out there and just stick them in the hot sun. Acclimate your plants, put them out, and get them, a little bit more in the sun every day, if it's a sun plant. So, because if you don't, they will just fall over. And that's the end of that. I wanted to show you one more thing, just so you'll know that, the best things we're going to do don't always. I started these tomato seeds, and this is the coolest thing. Okay, Kathy Turner found these. It's the coolest thing to start tomatoes in. See this? It's just some little plastic things. And if I had waited one more day, if I had planted, I would have a whole bunch of tomatoes to show you. But sometimes tomatoes grow real fast, and I was trying to keep them from being too big, and so that's what happened here. I'll have tomatoes that'll come up this easy. But you can put them in something like this, or in your pea pots, whatever you want to, and cover them with saran wrap. Very, very complicated. Just put some saran wrap on them, and then put them in your utility room. They don't need sun. They don't need heat. Just put them in your utility room or someplace out of the way, and make sure that they stay moist. And that's all there is to it. Like I said, as you can see that. Like I said, that's all there is. But these would have come up and been good tomatoes if I just didn't have to show them to you today. So, any questions? I think it's going to be time for us to have a break. Are we ready for a break?
I don't have that at home. I had a great secretary, when I was working, and she was really helpful to me. I mean, back one day she said, I know you like those shoes, but one's brown, one's black, so I don't know. But anyway, okay, as Kathy said, we're going to show you how you can propagate your geraniums. You may already know this. In fact, I was talking to one of my friends, Brenda, who said, well, she just cut them off and stuck them in the ground. And that's what Kathy told me she did. And I was like appalled, when I first heard that. I thought, oh, you can't do that. You've got to have soil and hormone and, all this stuff. Well, it may work just as easy as they said for some people, but it doesn't particularly work that well for me. So another person told me today that they appreciated when we talked before that I told you that I kill a lot of plants. And part of it's because I try all these different things. I just like to give things a try. So please don't be discouraged if something that you are trying doesn't work that time. Don't give up. Do it again and again, and you'll get it. Believe me, and your plants will thank you for it, because you'll be able to treat them in the way that they will grow in the very best. And so I encourage you to do that. We have a beautiful geranium here, but as you can see, it's kind of growing out of the pot. So first off was, do we need to repot it? Well, we could, but this is really getting pretty long. So what we're going to do is we're going to snip it right on off. And I'm going to go, can you see? I think you can see if I get it around here. I'm going way back down here to the stem. Can you see that part? Okay, and then I'm just going to snip it off right there. Whew. And you're gonna say, oh my gosh, you've killed it. Well, not really, I hope not. This is not my geranium, so it doesn't matter, you know. But I am going to try to not kill it. I'm gonna move it over here out of the way. And one of the things that I'm gonna do with it is I'm going to look for a node. A node is the place that it intersects with the stem, and that gives that growth so that it'll go forth and multiply. You know, it's been reading the Genesis, and so it does that. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a node, and sometimes they're, I think, pretty easy to identify, and then sometimes I have a little trouble and I have to feel, you know, because I may not see as good. But I think from this, we can get several cuttings, not just one, because that's not going to help me too much if I just stick that in the ground like that or in another pot. So what I want to do is go up here, and here is a new stem coming off. It's actually got some coming off of it, and I'm going to cut it back here. Now, I have this one, and what I want to do is cut just below the node. That's where it connected to the stem. So I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to cut at an angle. I hope, tell me if I don't hold this right under here, because sometimes I'm looking at it myself from here. But I'm going to cut it at an angle, and I'm going to give it a little bit of room there. And then I'm actually going to remove some of the leaves. Now, listen, the nursing comes out, and it's real hard to kill something. I mean, I was dedicated to saving people and things, but I have to remember, you know, that this is part of it. And so I will remove some of those leaves. Now, why in the world would I do that? It's because I want this to grow up and downward, not going up. It's put all its energy into making this beautiful flower, and I appreciate that, by the way, thank you. Because I want this now to concentrate on growing roots so that we'll have a new plant. And so I'm going to take off all these leaves, you see. And here's another node, and so I will cut it just below there, just below the node. And I've actually got a couple of plants that I can grow from here, and I'm going to cut this off. It's painful. Don't say, oh, you know, too loud. But I've done that. Now then, I'm going to trim that one. I'm really just making it naked nearly. And then I'm going to take a little water, and I'm going to spray, and I'll get it away from the equipment so you can probably see. I'm just going to spray a little bit on this at the node because I want to dip it in some rooting hormone. And if you don't know what rooting hormone is, I think we have some, maybe. We do. Actually, it's got my name on one of those. I just looked at it. You can buy rooting hormone if you're going to really do a whole lot, but you don't need this much. You can get just a little jar, a little plastic jar, and you need to keep it in a cool location, not out in the sun. And I have to be careful in the greenhouse, you know, to keep it kind of out of the heat. But this is what we're talking about, and I'll leave that up there for you. Put you just a little bit in a cup. Just a little bitty cup of some kind. The reason being, I don't want to dip everything into the same container. In the event that one of these cuttings had some disease that I wasn't aware of, I might be spreading it. And so, you know, you want to be careful. So I have just a little bit in here, and I wet it so that in turn, I can be sure I picked up plenty of hormone on there. Now, again, I'm going to tell you that some of y'all probably didn't use rooting hormone, and you may have gotten as good a result. I don't know. We were taught, and I try to practice using the rooting hormone. But some people said, goodness, they just stuck it in a pot and it grew. So good luck if that works for you. I have put already in this little 4-inch pot just some soil, and it's like Fran showed you a while ago, just potting soil. You don't need a seed starter, remember, because we're not starting a seed. It is potting soil. And I'm going to go ahead and moisten this a little bit. Usually you will have moistened your soil before you put it into the pot. I'm going to stir it up because this may need a little more than... but you want this not to the point that you could wring out water, but you want it pretty damp to start with. So I have put a fair amount of water in this, and I'll show you that. And I'm just using this pencil up here as my nibbler, and right now it's my stirring stick. And plus, that way nobody will get my pencil. So I'm going to take the geranium that I have now got rooting hormone on it, and I'm going to make a hole in the soil. Now, obviously, because the stem is not too fragile, it's hard enough that I could just poke it in, but it's a good idea to use the dibbler because you don't want that hormone to come off. You want it to be on the bottom. So I'm putting it in there, and then I'm just going to gently press that down. And do press down when you're putting a plant in. Don't just leave it loose. It likes to feel comfortable. It's like taking a little baby, you know, we wrap them up in a blanket. That gives them security. So wrap it up good, and then you've got this ready. The only other thing that you need to do, and don't forget, and sometimes I do this beforehand because I have a real short memory, is I write on here what it is. Especially if I'm doing several types of plants or I want to remember something. And so this one is a geranium. And I've written that on there. And I'm going to put today's date. And I believe it's the 29th, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Does that sound good? Yeah. It's close enough anyway. And the reason I like to have that on here is because later I want to show you, we propagated some geraniums in our greenhouse just right out here. And this one was propagated on March the 10th. Now, it was a stick that looked a lot like this one. And there it is. And can you see the little bitty leaf there? It's a little tiny leaf. Golly, there's sunspots or something on my hands. I should have washed my hands better. But see, and then the leaves, aren't they pretty? And it's coming right on through. And then another one did extremely well. Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have the date on this one, but I would suspect that it was probably propagated prior to that one. And it's just taking off. What's it doing? That's okay. And so I wanted you to see what you can come up with. So when you go to the store and you find a geranium that you really like, don't worry if you have to pay $5, $6 or something, because there's no telling how many you can get from that. And that's the exciting part. You can keep cutting on that, and I actually brought enough soil that I can do this other one the same way. I'll just quickly do it because later on we'll propagate this other one because there's no use in wasting it. And again, I'm just going to wet the soil as best I can.
Can you show us what a node under the
Where the node is?
Yeah.
I will try to do that. Let me stir up my lunch today.
Can you talk about the age of the stem that you picked?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The age of the stem that depend, like
The age of the stem?
yeah, like is it the new growth or old growth?
Oh.
What do you cut?
No, the new growth, if, in other words, let me show you, on this that I cut off, you see, there's not a node, and it is new, so it's just probably not going to make it, this one won't by itself, because it doesn't have that node that gives it that energy that it needs. The food for it is in that node. That's where a stem comes off. And let me see if I can find one right here. Yes, right here, you're going to find the node. Right? And this is the big stem, and then coming off of it is where it's coming off. Can you see? And does that make it any clearer for you? Any questions about that? Again, you would take this off, this. Oh, when you get up here, you've got another node. And after a while, I'm going to leave this one out here like this because you can come up and you can feel it. See, I can find this one just by feeling. I don't know that you can see. It's not like it's going to be a big bump on the log, you know. It's like a little place on this. But you can come up and feel it, and that's the node coming on up here because it's already got some coming out too. And this one would be a great one to also propagate. So probably we'll propagate some more of those. I'm going to go ahead and put this one where the node is. It's right there connecting the stem to the new one.
So you keep that little Y on there, right, Joe?
I did. I'm just going to keep it because it'll give it a little balance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could cut it again. Cut it at an angle. I think I mentioned that, but it's because I want as much of the hormone on there as I can get, and I'm going to trim it just a tad more to give it life. So, and I'm using the same hormone because I'm using the same plant, and you know, I'm not having to switch back and forth. And here I've got my little pencil, my little dribbler, and I'm going to make me a location here, put him down in there, pack him in, and then we'll take these, I'll need to label him, and we'll take these over to the greenhouse, put them on a heating mat that she talked about earlier, and under a light for a little while. We like to do that when they're that small because they just need that for the growth. You know, that'll make a lot of difference. So I'm just going to write geranium, and I can put red because I don't know the name of it. And it's the 29th.
Hey Joe, can it be any kind of light?
I'm sorry.
Can it be any kind of light?
No, we use plant lights, and we didn't bring one to show you. Somebody was talking to me about this earlier. I just buy mine actually on Amazon, or you can get them at Lowe's. I get the longer, like they're not quite 4 foot, I don't think. And there's usually at least 2 rows of lights. Sometimes there's 3, it just depends. And the more light like that, and it can be LED. We're trying the LED lights. We've seen some that have the different variations. They'll be red and green or blue, I don't know, all different ones. I'm just not that knowledgeable about the lights, about which one works better. For me, frankly, I've just bought more of the cheaper ones, but they are grow lights. And you can set them on a timer, and you can turn them off in the day if you're getting enough sunshine in there. With these little plants, I'd probably leave mine on in my greenhouse for a while, and leave them on the heating pad, as Fran mentioned, until you begin to see something like maybe that little bitty leaf, and then when that leaf comes up, you might want to leave it on there for a little longer. I think that some of that varies, and it may vary with just the individual. I leave mine on the heat. It depends on the weather too. See, if you're trying to heat your greenhouse, let me tell you right now, it can be expensive. But if I have heating mats, which pull very little electricity, and so they're much cheaper, I'll leave a lot of my stuff on there in the winter time because I know they're warmer, and it sure is nice for them. And then I'll just keep the soil moist, but not too wet. You can over-wet plants, and I like to water. Boy, I like to put that water on them, you know. And there's no telling how many plants I've drowned. I've just literally killed them because they'll get root rot from too much water. And particularly, I'm getting off, but if you try to grow succulents, do not water them too much. In fact, every time you think about watering them, just don't. You know, that's about the rule of thumb. It's just on occasion, because really and truly, they do not need it. These will need more water, these kinds of plants. And so that's pretty much, it's a very simple process. And I know, like I said, several of you, how many have had luck just, Kathy told me that when one falls off and breaks off, like this one will, if we hadn't been careful. In fact, it's got some more over here that probably needs to be propagated pretty soon because it's going to break off. She just sticks it in the ground and it grows. So, I don't know, have you ever had that luck? Yeah, Brenda has, and you've had okay. So, you know, you can go through all this process, or you can try the other one. It may work for you too, I don't care, and don't know, but I can just tell you, this is what we were taught, and this is what has worked well for us, and I think you can see the good fortune. We had enough of these nice geraniums to be able to sell a few of them at the plant sale that we recently had, because they had gotten big enough. Obviously, this was not quite large enough to go, but it will be. So look right in the future, it's coming. All right, Fran, you're on. Here, you need a tray. I'll move it on.
We have a question.
Okay.
Now that it's getting studied in 90s, do I need to do the math with light, or do I just put it out to my candidates and make that with light?
Okay, I need somebody to hear for me.
She said now that it's getting warm, that you still need to use the heating pad.
Or can I put it outside in the 90-degree weather?
If it's really warm enough, but is that soil that warm? You know, your ambient temperature may not be what your soil temperature is. So that you just have to kind of regulate that. If it's really that warm, what is it, for Bermuda grass, it has to be above 55 or 65 at night, something like that. And so, you know, all the time, and that's the outside temperature, but the soil has to be warm. And so if they're that small, like I cut, I'd put them on a heating mat for a while. You know, I'd just baby them. Something.
I'm just going to talk about bougainvilleas just a minute, and I just love that. I just love bougainvilleas. I've never been real successful with them, but I'm getting more successful. My neighbor across the street, if I knew him well enough, he has the most gorgeous red bougainvillea out that he sits out, his face is north. And if I could just know him a little better, I would go over there and ask him for cutting. But, you know, he's probably going, you can have a garden full of woody, beautiful bougainvilleas. All you need to do is cut 6 inches from the stem, dip it in the rooting hormone, stick it in a container, and water it, cover it with a plastic bag, and ta-da! Then you've got a bougainvillea. But actually, it's not that much harder. You can root a bougainvillea any time of the year. As a matter of fact, I used to work with some people in San Angelo, and they would take cuttings of bougainvilleas in the fall, and they had a big greenhouse, and they would stick their cuttings, and then by April, those bougainvilleas were gorgeous and ready to sell. So the cool months are probably the best for me, or for somebody that has a place to enclose them, but you can even do it in your house. They like bright light, but not direct sun. And I did not know that. I think part of the reason is I kept putting mine out when it would get too hot. I just had this vision of it would just, you know. But there's several types of cuttings. There's hardwood, which is usually what you find like on a tree, a stem on a tree. There's semi-hardwood, which is what we're going to use here. And there's softwood, which would be this. I bought this plant, but it does not have any cuttings on it that I could take. I don't know if you can see that. See this little? No, you can't see that. Never mind, I'll show you later. Okay. First thing you're going to do is you're going to make a label and put a date on it. Because if you do very many things, you won't have any idea. And I'm going to say that this is going to come from a red Bougainvillea. Or 29. What's the year? 23. My goodness. Okay. Sterilize your tools. Okay. I have some trimmers here, and I did not bring the Clorox wipes up there. That's okay too. You want to be sure that everything that you use is sterilized. Look at there. I have somebody that's helping me. You know, the other thing I don't have is my sweeping box. Thank you very much. It takes some of us a little longer. Thank you. One of the things you want to be sure that you do is sterilize your tools in your planting stuff. And the easiest way I've found, I told you about soaking your pots in Clorox water. Well, I just use Clorox wipes for my clippers. And you keep from contaminating something else with your clipper. Okay, so we're going to sterilize our garden tools. And then we're going to cut. I'm just going to kind of go through this first. We're going to cut a mature leaf. This is hard to do, switching back and forth. I'm just going to show you what a mature leaf stem looks like. Do you see that? Isn't that pitiful? But see all the little, it's through the winter, it's dropped this. And so those are ideal right there. They're not just hardwood, but they're semi-hardwood. They're alive, and that's what I'm going to take my cuttings from. Okay, the best time to take cuttings is in late spring or midsummer. Some of us just have to do it when we can do it. The stem is the only part of this plant that is going to root. So don't bother, just like Joe said, don't try to get, I'll leave these little leaves and these are going to be so beautiful. That all it does is drain your plant because it is trying to put its energy into the leaf or the bloom. So when you make the cuttings off this hardwood, you want to be sure that you get all of the stuff off of it. We're just going to make a little cutting. Let's see. You're going to wet this. What we're going to do is we're going to do just like Joe did. We're going to wet the bottom of the stem and press it into the rooting hormone. And she's already talked to you about use a little thing of your rooting hormone so that you won't waste all your rooting hormone because you don't want to contaminate your big jar. Some places call it rooting acid. I've never seen that. But. Okay, we're going to put a small container with well-drained soil, and then we're going to put soil in there that's either specifically for propagating from seeds and cuttings. I will tell you the truth, I just use that Miracle Grow potting soil. Other people sometimes mix perlite with it. You do want it to be a light soil. Your little roots are trying to go down there and grow. They're just little bitty skinny guys. So you want to be sure that you make it as light as you can for them to be able to grow. You can just use a small pot if you want, like the 4-inch pots, because it's not what you're going to grow in forever. I'm going to do something different today. I am actually going to put it in a hanging basket so that my plants don't have to be moved. But, you know, it's just 6 of one, half dozen of the other, whatever you want to do. You're going to make a hole in the soil with a dibble. Remember what I said we use a dibble? Dibble, dibble. I've seen people use chopsticks. You can use little, you know, it doesn't matter. I always have a pencil though. Into the soil. We don't want to go all the way to the bottom. And you're going to tamp the soil around the cutting so you know it's in place. And if you choose to put a larger pot in there, you can do. That's what we're going to do. You're going to water it after you do it. And we don't want to just water it to kingdom come. And just give it a healthy drink and be sure you don't overwater it. I mean, here is the best way to figure out if your plant needs water. Put your finger in the soil. That's why gardeners always have dirty fingernails. Because we're always going along and going, oh, that needs water, oh, that needs water, oh, that needs water. And then you get somewhere and you go, oh my goodness, look at my hand. But that's just the way it has to be. Try to clean something. In this case, we're going to cover it with a plastic bag so we can make our own little greenhouse. And because I'm using a big pot, you're going to laugh when you see my bag. But put it in a cool spot in your house and just leave it away from direct heat. Don't put it in the sunlight. And if you can seal your bag, do it. And if you can't, just put it over the top, okay? See that one right there? I can see they didn't seal theirs. Okay, in about 6 to 10 weeks, you should have some cuttings. You know that you have some roots if you begin to develop some leaves on there. You can, in the meantime, you just don't mess around with it a whole lot. Just leave it alone. Usually best until you have quite a bit of leaves before you start messing with it or do it. And I should have shown you. I did not bring a plant with me. But I'm going to show you this. This is moist. This is nothing magical. And if I dump this on the floor, y'all just laugh, okay? Okay. Take your fingers. Put it around your... Okay. This one's a little low in the cut. Turn it over. Now, if I had roots, I would see little roots all around there. This one's just not big enough yet. But it doesn't hurt. If you've had a whole bunch of plants, just do that. This one's not ready, I'm going to put it back in there and just tamp it down. But you can do that. It's, you know, people go, how do I know I have roots? Well, there's a good way to know. Right there. Okay. Once, it may take a while, 3 to 6 months, depending on your cuttings and the soil condition. But once it begins to produce foliage again, it's ready for you to put it in a larger container. Wrong thing. I'm not used to having this many tools at one time. Gradually introduce it to full sunlight. You want it to harden off. Don't just go stick it out there outside in the sun or the cold. I'll show you one that I did that way. It is actually most comfortable about the temperature that you are most comfortable. I always thought bougainvilleas were outdoor, plants, and I see them outdoor, but you don't see them that much. Now we're going to do a little blowing the dirt off of the thing. And I'm going to give you a little. Okay, here's my beautiful bougainvillea, okay? Let's just set that aside. I wanted to show you this one. I had this great idea. I was tired of all those plants in my house. And I had this great idea that I could put it out in just outside. Well, we kept having 40-degree nights and I didn't move it in. But I do want to show you. Can you see here? See where it's coming back? And I haven't cleaned the stuff off of it because I wanted you to see it. Look there. See it coming out? And there it's coming up. So don't give up on your plants too easily. You know, they will.
Fran,
Uh-huh.
on that example, would you just cut all those back down to the
I
babies?
think I will. I'll probably cut back. Do you see this one? I'll probably cut back down to about right there on that. And see the little ones down in here? No, there's really quite a few of them coming up.
Yeah.
And it'll look a lot prettier when I do that. But like I said, I wanted you to see, I told you, we kill as many plants as we make alive.
What do you feed your bougainvilleas with?
I'm sorry.
A special fertilizer for bougainvillea, or you just?
I have not yet, but I think I've seen some. Have you?
I've used it, I was just curious. if you
Is it like
know without it.
Miracle Grow or?
No, it's at Farm World, it's one of their brands, and it's
Uh-huh.
bougainvillea, and it's done well, but, you know, you can use
I think I'd like to try it. I do. Okay, we'll put this little thing out. Okay. Now, I told y'all I don't want you to laugh when you see my bag in my pot. I got over-ambitious and got a big pot, and then I couldn't find a bag it could sit in. And this is one of those things, you know, like the blankets come in. Don't you always feel awful throwing them away? They had this nice zipper and everything. And so, anyway, that's what that came from. And this soil is soil that I have already moistened a little bit, right here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take, and my goodness, if you talk about nodes, Bougainvillea, cut them at an angle. Bougainvillea have nodes. Look at all those little things coming on along there. So I'm going to actually cut that one off. And then I'm going to cut it straight at the top. And I tell you the reason I do this, plants don't like to be planted upside down. If you will put an angle at the bottom and a straight at the top, then you'll know which way you're going to go and plant that. I'm going to cut this across and make my little angle.
Could you make one cut under the light so we can see?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I forget about y'all.
You're in your zone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I'll try. This one will probably work, but it's a little smaller. I think I'll go over here and get another one. Always at an angle. Okay. And I'm going to make a straight.
Do they all have thorns? Don't they have thorns?
They're not really. I don't think. It could be. You can feel it this one when we get through. But I don't think it's much of a thorn. I've never.
The older ones do get thorny.
Do they? Okay.
Be careful.
Okay. There you are. This one's going to be a little lopsided. We could get some more, but I'm going to put some more in there later. I'm just kind of cleaning it. I'm cleaning it up is what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be a lot. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, spray it with water. I usually keep a little cup by where I'm rooting stuff with some water in it. I just throw them all down in there. Just saves me time doing this. I'm going to take my dibble. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to add some more. Okay. I'm going to dip them and then tap. Okay. I don't pour everything in. See, there's a good reason for knowing which is the angle. Okay. I'm going to put some more in there later, but I just wanted you to see what I was doing, because I want more cuttings in this big old pot. But let me show you something. This is the same thing I did to that.
Oh, wow.
Aren't they pretty?
Yes.
Now you can see a couple of them. I told you we always have some failures. But that is nothing in the world but just the very same thing that I did this time.
Fran, did you water those by putting water in the tray?
I did. Sometimes I do it both ways. I don't like to let my plants sit in water all the time. But I water them in the tray, and depending on how dry they are, I'll water them from the top. And then I may go around a couple of hours later before I go to bed or something. I know this is silly. But I'll take them and pour the water out of the pan. Just so that I know they've gotten well watered, but I'm not over watering, setting them in there. And, I think I'm going to end up with some pretty little plants. We'll see.
How old are those?
I did these about a month ago.
Wow, that's fine.
Let's see. Okay, sorry. I did them a month ago. I have a little, I shouldn't do that, but I have a little book at home that I actually keep. That kind of helped me remember when I plant stuff. But it really is, and I don't bother to put a thing in each one if I have them in a tray.
Did those need a heating mat? Did those need a heating mat?
I put them on a heating mat, yeah, for a few days. And I was really surprised when they came up as fast as they did. Now, they're going to need a lot more, work before they got a lot of growing to do. They're not ready to transplant. I'm afraid to pour one out. I might, let's see.
Do the dip.
I haven't watered them. You always want to be sure they're moist. Oh, I have to. Look at there. Can you see it?
Yeah.
You see my roots? So they came out surprisingly fast.
So you can repot it when it looks like that?
Yeah, I could. I may wait just a little bit longer though.
Like how much longer? Like what, like
Oh.
a month or?
Maybe a couple more weeks, maybe a month. I'm going to be out of town, and a friend of mine is going to help me water. Isn't it wonderful to have friends?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted you to know you can have that $29 plant, and yours would be good. I love these. I think these are going to be pink. I want it red. Yes.
When you're putting your plants there with the water, when do they know pull it out and pull it out of the bag? You're showing us.
Oh, I forgot to even show you the bag.
Can you repeat the question, please? Can you repeat the question?
Oh, she wanted to know how long are you gonna keep them in the bag? Look, I would wait at least till they have this much growth. But be careful, you know, look in your bag, and you don't want it to just be soaked with water in there. It can have some little vapor in it, but don't just make it just dripping down the sides.
So do you water that inside the bag with the spray bottle, or do you use?
Yeah, I will, when I get through with it all, and then I'll just close the bag up.
And leave it for how long before you water it?
Well, I'm gonna look at the outside of the bag and see if there's moisture. I'm gonna see what my vapor looks like in there. And if it's dripping, that's too much. Then if that's the case, I'm gonna open my bag and let it dry out just a little bit. Because you don't want them to rot. You just want moisture, okay? And they don't just take tons and tons. But you don't want them to dry out either, okay? All right.
Okay, we're going to go on and start. We need to get started on this, and we're going to have a pretty short PowerPoint because then it'll help you know what we're going to do. I think you'll see this, and it actually can be applied, this same process, to the geranium. So you've seen the process before you see this written out here. Also, this is in a copy, not the exact PowerPoint, but the information on something we will distribute to you toward the end. So don't worry if you don't get everything written down just right, you know, it's going to be there and it will be available to you. So I think you will like that, and I think that will be beneficial to you. So we'll just get started here, except I don't know how to work it. Huh?
The right.
Hang on. There's a setting on this action
No, I'm not working.
Yeah, the right. The right. Okay, right.
Oh, yeah. Now then, I don't have to do Okay. Again, this is on stem cuttings, and we did this earlier, but it has some specific information about roses, and that's why I had to kind of delay showing it until now. But these are truly one of the easiest ways to propagate something. And so you may find that this will be something that you really want to go home and try on something that you already have. It doesn't have to be a rose, doesn't have to be a geranium, doesn't have to be a Bougainvillea. I mean, it can be whatever you want to give a try to. So please be encouraged to do that. The thing is, when she talked about asexual and all this stuff, and the hybrids and you know all that stuff, let me just tell you that when you're doing a stem cutting, you're not going to get a surprise unless it just dies. But I'm saying you're going to get what you took it from. It's a clone. It's an exact clone. So that's what's going to happen. Oops, over here. Okay, and in addition, it is difficult sometimes to get the little part that you cut to survive, because it has survived just kind of like kids next to mama for a long time, you know, maybe for kids, and for plants it also has survived because of the mother plant. And so don't be discouraged, just give it some more time, work with it. Temperature, that's important, and of course you've got to give it some water because it was getting its nourishment from the mother plant. There are different types of cuttings. There's hardwood, semi-hardwood, and soft. Hardwood are sometimes salvias or American beautyberry. They will get harder as the time comes along. Others, like these, are probably going to be pretty much soft cuttings. And so you can use different kinds, and there's some in between. you can do this any time of the year. Now, usually spring is one of the better times. Before it starts getting really hot, that's not conducive necessarily to doing this. And they asked a while ago about putting something out to keep it warm. Again, you have to look at the soil temperature. That would be something that I would consider. So I would probably use a hot mat, a warm mat, for doing this, but you don't necessarily have to. I think it's important to look at, it says here that the stem has recently bloomed. Well, many of you have that, and you're kind of like me again. I said, I hate to cut those off, Now, I did cut the ones that I brought yesterday morning. I think Fran cut yours this morning, so your blooms may look a little better. Mine are beginning to go, but we may cut them off anyway. So don't get excited if the stem that you got looks kind of rough right now. That's okay. We're going to work with it, and it'll be fine. It is suggested that you take more than one cutting. So I cut them longer. We did, and if you can get more than one node, I would try that. And all, but if not, don't worry about it. You can do that later on when you're doing some other ones. And then what's crazy, it turns around and tells us that we should avoid new growth. Well, what is the new growth? Because you see the bloom and you think, well, that's it. But if it's new stem, a little stem coming up, the petiole is off that stem, and that's what's coming up. So you have to be kind of careful with it. But again, a lot of it is just trying. Oh, we kept these in water, hoping that they did not dry out. So if you got wet on your table, well, that's what we needed. You wanted to keep them damp. If they dried out too much, they may not take. So you needed to be aware of that. If you're not going to be able to do it right away, number one is I would avoid making the cutting. But number two, if you're not going to be there later, go ahead and take it. But say wrap it in some tissue paper or paper towels and it's wet. Just keep it wet. Put it in a water bottle or something like that until you can use it. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a small pot, and I'm going to use a different method here. You can use the pot, and you're going to need, as you mentioned, the potting soil. You can use perlite. Potting soil will work most of the time, just using that. You need some of your rooting hormone, and in this case, they're talking about doing it with a soda bottle. Now, this is the method that we used for the intern class that we just recently had, and we were teaching them. And so they each saved a clear soda bottle, cut the bottom off, and then found a pot. We have the pots for them, and they fit right over it. It makes its own little dome, its own little greenhouse, so to speak. This is a nice way to do that. But you do have to find the right size pot, and then you have to get your soda bottle. Either you drink it or your neighbor does or something. And that's what we did. We put the soil in here and worked from here. Not stand up. Okay, when you get your cutting, you're going to cut below the node. What direction do you cut? Angle, right. And then at the top, when we get ready to snip off, we're going to go across. I think Fran explained that pretty well. But this is what we'll do. And so you're going to do this in a little bit. You're going to find your node, and if you're having trouble, we'll have some of the master gardeners coming around to help you. But I think you'll be able to find the node pretty easily on most of these. Your hormone will be in a little container. You should have one. Does each person have one? Each table. Okay. Yeah. And because we're doing the same thing of roses, we're going to mix. In other words, what I'm saying is, I told you in the past, and this is not the same that I used on the geranium. So just so you'll know, now I'm going to a different plant. So I have a different little container. And so when you buy it, you don't need that big container, but you will have a little bit larger. Just be very kind of skimpy with it. It doesn't take very much. So share that. You may have to share some other items there at the table. Well, we're going to water our soil very well in just a few minutes. And then we'll cut to the length that we want, below the node with our slanted cut. And that's the hard part. Now it says remove the flowers because you do want to. Why did I say it earlier on geraniums? Same thing on roses. If not, the energy is trying to make that flower keep blooming, even though it's been cut off. Well, we don't want it to bloom now. We want the roots to develop. And so that's the reason that we're going to do this. And you dip it in the hormone. Use your dibbler. Use the dibbler, I remind you, because you don't want the hormone coming off at the top. You want that to go down where the roots are be growing. And this is the cutting from that other one was back here, was making the mini greenhouse. And I showed you that. We're not going to do that method, and I can't remember if it shows up. We're going to do another one. But you can do this, and it works real nicely because also, if it needs air, you can just unscrew the top a little bit, and then put it on your time, and that will allow that. So it's kind of a handy way to do it, and obviously very inexpensive, but it will need to fit your pot. So you can see what it's going to look like. We're going to label. You should have some labels in your box, and that's what you're going to label with. And then you're going to put it with good light, but not direct sunlight. You don't want to set it out in the sun. Say, oh boy, I love the sun too. But too much of a good thing is not good. So you're going to put it just where it's getting light. It can be in your home. It can be in a greenhouse, whatever. It needs to be where it's warm enough, but I wouldn't put these on a heating pad. I wouldn't heating mat. You don't want to let the potting soil dry out, but you don't want to get it too wet. And somebody I talked to, and I've lost track of, was saying that theirs was getting mold on the rose stem. And why? Overwatering. I did that too. I did that not long ago. I'm going to use the bag, and that's what I'm going to tell you. And I got mine too wet, and it rotted. It got mold and everything. So you have to use a balance of keeping it moist, but not too much. There, you hope you get something like this. I'm still waiting, but I think someday it will, if it lives long enough, if I don't overwater it. And then we're going to be able to transplant it into a pot. And do not put it in a big, huge pot like that because it says a rose bush. Well, it's not a rose bush yet. You're going to have to transplant it a couple of times, probably. The rule of thumb is when you transplant to a new pot, whether it's a new cutting or you're just got one that's coming out, the sides of your pot, not over 2 inches larger in diameter, because that's just a rule of thumb. So that helps you maybe in knowing what to do with it.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, if you're going to transplant a plant, the rule of thumb is you move it from a pot to another, a larger one, not over 2 inches larger in diameter. It just overwhelms them. It's kind of like they just need to go a little step at a time, and they'll make it. That works better. We're going to label. Remember, we're going to label everything and date it. So you can label yours if you have a red rose or a white rose or a pink rose. And I don't know the names of all of these at all because some of them came from our farm that we planted back years ago when we got the farm. Some came from the church that I go to. almost got out of the car at Sonic yesterday and got some there, but I was afraid it might cost me more than my drink, so I didn't. But I'm just telling you, I don't know the names. Do you? And Fran said she didn't either. So pink or red or white works pretty good, doesn't it? We can do that. And then you can water it. But this is down the road. You're gonna, have to go that way. Okay, what we're gonna use is another method. And if you've been around Abilene very long and gardening, you know the name what is his name that I knew? But anyway, anyway, he did gardening and was well known for roses and rose cuttings. We're going to use a bag instead of the soda bottle, partially because of the numbers, and I don't drink that many sodas to bring you a soda bottle, but also because it works just as well. It really will work. Fred Perkins is who I couldn't think of the name earlier, and he was just sort of Mr. Tomato and Mr. Rose. I mean, he just did those perfectly well. Well, this was the method that he used. So you have soil in here already. I suggest that you might go ahead and dampen the soil. Not much because it's not dried out. But just put a little dampen it just a little bit, shake it up a little bit and get it ready. And then when you get it done, it should feel just a little moist, but not soaking wet, because you're going to keep it damp as you go. It's not working, is it? This is? Oh, it is, isn't it? Okay. So then we're going to take our rose, and you're going to have to be careful if you're doing it manually, because you may want to just look for the node because it's got stickers, thorns on it, and come up a little ways to where you can see where others are coming off of it. So when there's other places coming off, right here is one that I found on this one, and I'm going to cut it just below the node. Y'all need to help them find. Anybody need help?
Are you calling the node right below the leaf?
Yes, there should be a node back there. This one had a nice one right there. If it's a little bitty leaf like this one, it doesn't have a really one that you can tell.
You're not showing on the.
Not showing. Wait a minute. There we are. If it's like that, you're probably not. But I found a pretty good size one back here, and I cut just below it. And you cut it at an angle. And I'm going to cut off some of these leaves. I didn't cut off any of the thorns, so I'm going to be careful. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off my flower. It's dying anyway, and it's ready. So I'm going to cut it just like that. Yes, ma'am. You're trying to find the node? Okay. You just have to kind of go up and look. Here's a node. Here's one. And I'm going to cut mine a little higher because I'm going to put it in this bag. And I don't think it's going to fit if I leave it as tall as it is. I could cut it at the top. That may be what I do, because I had such a nice node. Have you found the node?
Just below.
Yeah, the top I just went across.
No, how far underneath the node?
You can cut it right up next to it if you need to. Terry, can you ask Kathy if they'll help them find the node? I think they're trying to find the nodes on their rose cuttings.
Are we taking all the leaves off?
I did, because I don't want anything else, having trouble with it. You could probably leave one on there and it wouldn't hurt, but. And to get mine to fit, I ended up cutting more at the top because I had such what I thought was a good node and down here. So if you need it to fit, you can cut the flower off. See, mine's going to fit pretty well in here. Somebody else need help with finding the node? We got a couple of people coming around. I've left them on, it's a temptation to take them off. For those of you who have found the node, you can go ahead and spray the angle cut so that it'll take plenty of. And before you do that, let me tell you what I would do is scrape just a little bit, and that may get one of your thorns or something off. Scrape some more so that you can put hormone on some of the up there a little bit. Scrape it off. Scrape some of that, not only the thorn, but let me show you. It'll scrape the green. Ouch, it does stick. Did you see, can you see where I scraped some of that? Yeah, that's good. And then wet it just a little bit, and it's ready to dip into your rooting hormone. So as you can see, I'm going to get rooting hormone up my stem just a little more than I did on the geranium. And if you've got that done, go ahead and open your bag and put your dibbler in so that you don't. And I'm going to put my rose cutting in there and kind of press it down.
Snipped all of them off.
If you close your eyes, then you know you've got a node. So if you're gonna,
you could try it. Just put it in there with the one you got, with the bigger one. You can You can try it.
There's another
The magnet's too small to support it,
But you
but
could do it. It'd be
who knows?
really short, but you could do it.
I'm just gonna go ahead and clean your, when you get completely done, clean your clippers. No, it's fine. It's supposed to kill the bacteria.
You actually don't need this.
Yeah. And I clean mine because I've already cut and dipped.
That you want to encourage at this point. It's not gonna be positive for the plant. That's too much going on. I would get rid of this. You really don't need that either. You gotta know this is what you need. I would take off that. I would take off that. You literally want a stick looking. I know it doesn't look like much food.
If you've got your rose in your bag, get ready to be sure you put a label in there. And ideally, these will. How long? Just so it'll fit in your bag. It can be longer than this. Maybe so. If it'll fit in the bag. And I'm going to stick mine in here like this and hope that, I'll tell you what, I'm going to find some scissors and trim this sharp edge off. Does anybody have scissors at their table? Those are clippers. Clippers, clippers, clippers. It's clippers, scissors. May I borrow your scissors? No, what I'm going to do is do that so it doesn't puncture the. See? You can use these. Thank you. You got them in? Yeah, you want yours cut? Straight? Okay. It's in the soil. Yeah. Be sure and label and just call it, I call mine a dark pink. That's how I differentiate it. Label your rose, put it in the bags with the date. And then you may want to moisten that soil around that stem. Do you have a straw? Okay, keep it. I just want to know if everybody's got a straw. I don't have one. Let me see if I can find one in my container. Yep. Got one. No, it's okay. It's already, maybe, be better if they're a little bit longer, but that's about what I've got. Yeah. Because they're going to like them. That's okay. They'll be all right. They'll be all right. Okay, are we about to get done with that? Because we got one more project to do. Okay, can you look up here for just a minute? Once you get your stem in the bag, close it almost together and then stop right, I do it right in the middle, and hold both. Your straw needs to fit right there. Looks like a periscope, doesn't it? Or mine does because it's bent, I don't know about yours. And then I'm going to blow in the straw and gently bring it out so that I close up and have air. We said all plants need a little air. So see what, you can do it several times till you get it ready. It's tricky, you have to be coordinated. There you go. There's mine. Yep, wherever you can, just put it in there and blow some air in there. And you've got air, moisture, soil, and now then you can put it wherever it's going to get some light, but not out in the direct sun. So there it is. Now you watch and you hope you'll begin to see some roots down here, and it may take a day or two, may take a week, something like that.
That quickly?
Could be. Mine have not, they've been a couple of weeks. But I lost one because I overwatered. So don't overwater. I'm sorry. You just need a feel of it. And that'll tell you. And also, I think you're going to find that even as good as these are, they're Ziploc baggies, you know. But seriously, they will also deflate some. So you're going to add air to it maybe every day, maybe not every day. It kind of depends. Just spray. Don't pour water in there. You'll get too much. And if you get too much, it's going to mold and it's going to die. And if it does, just try it again. That's all I can tell you. That's the best way to do it. And I'll leave this up here for you to look at this other if you want to try one like this. It's pretty good. It's really, and it's got a way to get some fresh air into it. Yeah, the tricky part is finding a container that will fit this. That's what we found was hard. We had to purchase some actually, but you may go through some of the pots. If you're gardening much, you probably got pots like we do everywhere. And we found a few. Are you doing a blue mist or not? Oh. Then I guess I better get ready, hadn't I? I don't have any up here. I don't have any mist or the deal. I got one. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is blue mist. Greg's mist, Greg's blue mist. I heard first that it was Greg's blue mist. So we're going to distribute the blue mist now. The helpers, they're on break, I think. No, they're working. We're going to give you some blue mist, and does anybody already have some Greg's mist? Susie, you know, you got some you could have supplied for us. This is a rather aggressive, let me say that. I don't want to say invasive, but I want to say aggressive plant. It will grow. It will. I don't think you can kill it. I really don't think so. But it's beautiful. Here's the best part about it. Butterflies love it. I tell you, I can't even count the butterflies in the spring, and they're not out yet, but they're coming. And they will literally cover it. They love it. No sun, just put it out in the sun. It'll be fine. And the thing is, if it starts going off over here where you don't want it, just dig it up. That's okay, because it's just good. I know it doesn't look like much of these. I just didn't have any mist. Okay, thank you. Okay, when you get your mist, it's going to have roots on it. And if you didn't get some with roots, well, we've got plenty. We'll give you some more.
They're stuck in there a little bit. I like to take the one that's on. Yeah, that is a great root. You can't It's a wet one, but it's got root. It just has to have root hair. Root hair is more important than what it looks like right now.
I think we've got plenty to be sure they've got roots.
So this is what you call this blue mist?
I know it looks crazy.
Greg's Mist or Greg's
And
Blue
it's
Mist.
sappy and
Because it's
awful.
kind of, it's really a
You've got
little
great
bit of a
roots there,
purplish
so-
color flower. And they're just gorgeous, wonderful.
This is root.
That here, you're the president, you're gonna have more than that.
Calls it palm leaf mist flower.
Palm leaf,
Mist flower is another name for it.
another name. We've always called it Blue Mist or Greg's Mist. I like Greg's Mist because I have a son that.
Is it a mint or a?
No, it doesn't have an aroma or anything that I've detected, but it has these beautiful flowers. It'll just flower and it'll grow and flower all summer. Mine's already up. I mean, it's up like that. And as soon as the butterflies come to town, they'll be all over it. And they just love the flowers. It's
It says sunflower.
okay. It's not. I don't think it's a salvia. No, I mean I know it's not one, but it might be in some way.
It's saying it's a member of the sunflower family.
And the bees will like it. You know, the friendly bees that like to come to your garden.
I thought it was named after your Greg.
I did too. That's why I said I like it. So I call it Greg's Blue Mist because I have a son named Greg. Has everybody got their blue mist? Raise your hand if you don't have any. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Now, some of us have some with a lot of roots. I'm not going to cut them, not for this. I am going to plant them as best I can in this soil. So I'm going to have to kind of, you've got a box I think you're working around with. I don't, and I'm going to cover it. Do we have our paper clips handed out?
Yeah, they came on.
Okay. And I'm covering it by holding it a little bit.
Are we supposed to wet this wheel that's in the bowl?
Do we wet the soil?
Then you will, once you've got it pretty secured.
Oh, okay.
Now then, if it's not staying down as well as you'd like, you have a paper clip and you can open it and make kind of like a landscape pin and stick it around there so it'll help hold that in. See? That's what I'm going to have to do here too. Some of it is more trailing than others. These bowls are not particularly ideal, I'm going to confess. Your bowl should have a couple of little holes in the bottom that we've already done for you so that you will be able to, it'll drain. You don't want to have a plant in a container that does not drain. And just bend your paper clip to hold that plant down. And it just needs to hold it till you can get home and get it planted. That's really the truth. This is not a long-term container for Blue Mist. And depending on the size of the root, it may or may not stay real good. And I'm going to mist mine just a little, see if I can get it under control. It's kind of wanting to do its own thing. And there it is. Now I'm going to label it. I know what it is, so I'm not going to use my label, but you'll want to put, you can put Greg's Mist, or what else would do this? Greg's Mist flower.
It's a wild ageratum.
It's what?
A wild ageratum.
It is. Well, it can be all sorts of things. And again, I would use the term that it is very aggressive. What I'm saying there is just that if you'll plant this, be sure you put it where you have some room, and then you'll have butterflies everywhere for it. It is a wonderful plant for that reason.
Joe, do we need to cut any off the top? Do we need to trim the top?
No, I wouldn't. You can if you want to. I don't think you'll hurt it. We didn't trim anything on this. I didn't even trim the roots. And if you don't have enough room, if they hand you some more and you don't have room in your bowl, that's fine. Just take it home and plant it. I'm serious. Just put it out in your soil. You don't have to have potting soil. If you put it in a pot, it'll just grow over, I think, but it'd be very nice.